4:40, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's a regular meeting, Board of Directors, May 17th, 2018, of the Central Appraisal District for El Paso. And I'll call roll. Ron Lowenfield?
Present.
Sam Trimble?
Present.
Mike Nahara will not be with us this evening. He called in. Mike Rosales will not be with us this evening. He called as well. Chuck?
Chuck Taylor.
You're in. Al Velarde?
Here.
Just slid on in. Gary Gondera?
Present.
All right. And Vince Pettis? He's almost here. And I'm here, Laurie Searles. So our first thing to do, we need to say the pledge to the flags. If everyone stand and pledge the flags with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you all very much. So that would take us to the fun part, staff recognition.
Yes, ma'am.
I can't believe these people are old enough to have worked here this long.
Well,
So-
you know, we start them really young.
Yes,
you know?
this must have been internships in junior
Yes,
high.
Junior high. You betcha.
So if board members, if you'll join us up here.
What I'd like to do is recognize our 20 years of service first. And the first one, 20 years of service, Dominga Espinosa. You want to come on up? Thank you so much for your service. It is truly appreciated. And we hope to see you another 20 years. Dominga was in our data entry, and then when we changed the data entry, we used her in with our central records and our phone bank. So she is handling all of the calls.
I don't know where he hides these pictures. I still haven't seen them.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dominga. The next one we have is Leticia Lopez. Tish, we call her Tish. Thank you so much.
You must have started just.
Tish started with our ARB department, and then she took over our central records and phone bank, and has been managing that.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. Can I get your picture?
Oh.
This is for you.
Oh, thank you. Can I get in here? Get a picture. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Tish. The next one we have, everybody knows, Mr. Rick Medina, 20 years of service.
He was only 20 years old.
I know. And Rick's been everywhere. He started with us in our mapping department,
Thank you, Rick.
and then became a commercial appraiser, business personal property appraiser, was a manager there, and is now our director of administration. Thank you, Rick. Our next one is Marina Salgado. Marina, thank you. Marina started out as a clerk down in deeds and exemptions, and she's now one of our appraisers. Has promoted herself up to appraiser and taken the classes, and very, 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 very grateful that she is one of our appraisers. And then Octavia Sweeney is our 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Octavius is our research and development. He's our software guru. Helps us do all of our reports and make sure that everything's done timely. Gets those notices out. We couldn't operate without him, so thank you.
He also has awesome costumes at Halloween.
He does.
Thank you,
25 years of service, Miss Elvira Dickerson. She's been one of our clerks for, like I said, 25 years, has worked in multiple departments. Right now is commercial, business, personal property. Great employee. We just love having her. And always has a smile. She's got a big smile. Thank you. Carmen Garcia. Carmen, yay. Carmen is in our deeds and exemptions department. She was in our personal property department, commercial department. Carmen is fantastic with the taxpayers. She works really well with them and is very diligent to make sure that their issues get resolved. So we really thank her. Definitely not least, as we all know, maybe you haven't met this gentleman before, David Stone, 25 years. And everything that he's done here is so long it would take me hours, but we couldn't do it without David. And as a chief appraiser, assistant chief appraiser, he really steps up to the plate. So I thank him personally for all that he's done.
Part of who you are, part of your DNA. Long day? Long day?
So that would take us now to our public hearing on our proposed 2018-2019 budget.
Yes,
and is there anyone signed up to speak?
No, ma'am, there's no one signed up to speak.
Okay.
We've had no inquiries from entities or public in writing or through email or any of our social media. We can move on to, I would like to take item number 9, which is discussion and possible action regarding the adoption of the budget, and move it up to now.
To 3. Okay, is that okay with the board? Everybody good with moving 9 to 3?
I'm fine with it.
Yes. Okay, so be it. So that would take us to, we're moving 9 to 3, and that will be discussion and possible action regarding the adoption of our 2018-2019 budget. And we've had the budget for quite some time. I know y'all have had time to look over it. We had a workshop. We talked about it. Are there any other comments, questions, observations? Anything anybody'd like to discuss? I'd like to say I think it's a really clean, good budget.
Thank you.
I thank you for it.
Well, and so the board will know with what we visited with during the budget workshop and with the committees, there are some things that were brought up that we will be looking at this coming year and following through and bringing to the board throughout the year maybe some changes and possible different direction that we can go. So we appreciate your input.
Commissioner Pettis,
Yes,
do you
ma'am.
have?
I had just a few more questions to follow up from last time.
Sure.
I noticed on the regarding salaries and wages, I guess we had talked about the issue of overtime, and I guess in thinking about that further, I don't know how it is in your all's governmental entities, but typically in administrative governmental entities, like we don't offer overtime except for first responders and those that respond to emergency events. I don't know if that's normal practice in other essential appraisal districts, but I mean, considering that
Yes.
this budget does include both salary increase and merit increase, I was wondering, I guess, why isn't it that I guess comp time isn't used versus overtime?
The property tax code insists that we have meetings on Saturdays, and to meet certain deadlines, we do have to do overtime. And the board in the past has just approved the time and a half overtime, not a competency or not a comp type. So that is the direction we've always gone. But there are days that we must work overtime. We receive over about 15 to 16,000 renditions that have to be worked in a very short length of time, so overtime is used at that time. What we try to do is encompass it into our work week. So if we have people that are on a alternative work schedule where they come in at 7 and work till 6, then that Friday they're supposed to be off, but that's the Friday that they come in as overtime and strictly work renditions. We'll probably have we always have about 4 to 5 Saturdays during the summer that we have hearings, so that's an overtime that we have to have. So it's a number that's just always been in there. We use prior year's numbers to try to help us estimate what we think we may need because we don't know for sure how much. I know this year we're probably going to have 6 Saturdays, maybe even 7 that we'll be meeting for this year. Of course, this budget is for next year. So we've never looked at a comp program versus a time and a half program, but we can sure look at that going into the next year's budget and come up. Most appraisal districts, I don't know of any appraisal districts that do comp time. They all do time and a half, but that is something that we can research for next year.
I don't know. So I don't know what the practice is at other governmental entities.
Comp time we have.
We have comp time too at the county.
Time and a half.
I mean, that was just one suggestion I wanted to throw out there for the board's consideration, given overtime costs, because I think the board has been generous, I guess, in giving increases. This is probably, is this the 3rd year in a row for
Yes,
salary increases?
it is.
And couple that with
Okay.
increases in overtime. The other question I had, I mean, if the board is fine with that, I mean, then I guess that's something that we can address the following year.
While we're on salaries and wages, if you don't mind,
Sure.
Of that 2.5 más o menos percent, 2.42%, what percentage of that is appraisers in the field?
Oh, I couldn't tell you because it doesn't matter, our appraisers in the field or appraisers in the office. Usually field work is not overtime, it's the office work that's overtime. But when you're looking at the salaries, let me see if I can...
I can
we have it broken out by department, so we have appraisers in the field in residential, appraisers in the field in commercial, and appraisers in the field in personal property. And so in your budget by department, it has the salaries for each department.
I guess I just asked because I just go back to, I keep going back to in my mind, and not only in the way I see it, and also basically in the city, which I represent, kind of sees it is going back to the software that we spent a considerable amount of time on, 5035, item 5035, noting that 30% increase of productivity and there being no correlating savings of any kind. And
Well,
so normally when I would undertake something that would be meant to increase productivity, there would be somewhere that you would see an actual tangible effect.
And that'll be next year, because if we go into, we won't get those devices until the end of the year. So, or the beginning of the next fiscal year, probably won't get them until October, November. They'll come in and do a presentation for you. And then at that time, we'll see what kind of productivity changes we have, and then we'll be able to use that percentage going forward into the next. I don't know what it's going to affect us, how it's going to affect us here versus others. We have a lot larger mileage in our county than in other counties. So we're not sure how that's going to affect. So we need to at least do a pilot year or a base year and then go from there.
And in speaking to the company, their sales manager told me that there's a learning curve involved because it's very different than what people are used to doing right now. So we might not see any immediate benefit in the first year, and maybe not till the second year once people are used to the new system and using the new hardware.
Have you been able to monetize what that's going to be, or savings there?
We won't know until we actually get into it. We're not sure.
Yeah, we're not sure.
But I mean, I'm sure there's been some analysis done on it. I don't imagine you.
Well, I know when we used laptops in the past, when we had laptops that were connected We had some issues with them because of the connectability of, you know, the mountain range and what have you. We took about 2 days from the field away. They were able to do, instead of 3 days in the field, they were able to spend more time in the field and have 2 days less in the office because it automatically went into the system. This is going to be different because they're going to have to actually download the data into the device, go out in the field, do the work, and then come back in and upload it back into the system. So I'm not sure we're going to do a 2-for-1, but we may do a 1-for-1. We may save 1 day in the office, but we will have another day that we'll have to download and upload. So, you know, I don't want to use that as a comparable because that went directly into the system and they didn't have to take the time to download their data and then come back in and upload it. So, you know, as we go forward, we'll see. I'm assuming it, you know, will eliminate maybe 1 day's worth.
So we've had a lot of questions about this software, and what I'm thinking is maybe could you bring the board a quarterly report on, okay, we got it, now we're learning how to use it.
Right.
Learning's going good, heading to the, with that.
Right. And this is in the budget just so that if we decide to go this way, we have it.
Yes.
If we don't go this way, you guys get the money back. Anything at the end of the year, the entities get whatever's left over because we start with a zero balance. So what we'll be doing is we'll be bringing that company to the board to give a presentation, just like we did with the pictometry with the aerials and the obliques. We'll be doing the same thing. They'll come before the board. They'll do a presentation. They'll show you. They'll give you their numbers. And at that time, we can decide, do we want it or do we don't? So, I mean, this isn't a done deal. We just wanted to, if we decide we want to have the money in here. If we decide we don't, then the money will go back to the entities. We didn't want to have to take it out of a contingency. You know, we wanted to put it in the budget to be transparent. Doesn't mean that we're going to go that way. We may decide after they do their presentation that it just won't work for us.
And then I guess, do you want to, just my last question was there, again, the cost for the mobile devices, which I'm assuming are iPads or something like that,
Yes.
is listed here as 200, is that correct, 200,000? At least that's what we had discussed last time. So my general question there was, last time we discussed it was going to be a lease. Have we kind of seen the cost difference between lease versus purchase? And then
We have in our other equipment, we used to purchase all of our computers and printers and everything, and we found that they depreciate so fastly that when we would go in to put in our budget and have to purchase all these again, it'd be a big, large amount in the budget. So with a lease, it's a steady amount in the budget that we pay for the lease, and then after a 3 or 4 year agreement, then they replace them instead of us having to buy them. Then we also have to try and get rid of them, which is really hard to get rid of obsolete equipment.
Yeah, my only concern was with this for leases is I know when you're leasing hardware equipment, oftentimes you're not carrying your computers out into the field, right? So like these will be out in the field.
These will be out in the field.
These will be dropped, and you know there will be little issues that come about. And oftentimes when you're leasing hardware equipment, any type of damage or anything, you end up paying considerably more than you would have to replace the item yourself if you had owned it.
And that'll
outright.
be something, if we decide to go this way,
Okay.
that'll be something that the board can tell us, yeah, we want to do it, or no, we don't, we want to buy them outright, or we want to lease them. Again, we just wanted to make sure that we had, you know, what we needed in the system, but the money would go back if you decide not to.
The actual hardware cost is only going to be $14,500.
Okay.
The bulk of the cost is the software.
Okay. Well, then, all right. That's not what I have in my notes from last time, but that's okay.
Regarding the per diems, at the county we use we use the GSA rates, but I think in reviewing here what the reimbursement is here, it's significantly higher than that of the federal level.
Are you talking for the appraisal review board?
Yes.
Okay, that is a per diem.
And also under education and dues as well.
Oh, we use a government rate on the per diem for the meals. It's the government rate.
It's the GSA rate?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, because
is that under travel?
Under 5130. Under 5130 education dues.
Okay. Right. That you're looking at that amount. That's everything. That's not just per diem. That's the conference fees and everything. That's the total amount.
So when it comes to things like meals and all that, you're following the federal per
Yes,
diem
sir.
rate?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We are.
Also, along with education, the board education line item is something that's rarely utilized, or it always frequently comes in under budget. Does it make sense to keep that there, or does it make sense to just, put that in with just one single education and dues item?
That's y'all's call. We separated it out so that at least 2 members would be available to go to the Texas Association of Appraisal Districts conference, which is for training and for board of directors. They have specific sessions. Commissioner Pettis, you went last year. Ms. Searles, I believe you've gone before. So that's what that money is in there for. We can take it out and throw it in with the other education, but that's what that is. So that separately the board we show it in the budget so that if the board travels, there's funds for board travel, and it's not included with employee travel. I think it's kind of an accounting thing to make sure that we show the separation.
Okay. Also under education, I know you cited the TDLR as justification for the 20,000 increase. Was last year's line item, I'm sorry, all my files are all over the place, but was last year's line item close enough to, I guess, where it justified the 20,000?
Well, we know TDLR is going up on the rates this coming year, so that's why we put that in. We don't know what the rates are going to be for appraisers. And also, see, not only does TDLR, but the coursework that PTEC, which is a property tax, property education committee, coalition, they're going up on their rates also. So that's why that's in there. We're not sure what they're going to go up on. Again, what isn't spent is given back. We've got to make sure, because our employees must have, we've got a legislative year coming up, so there'll be courses that they'll be required to take. They have to have 30 CEs in 2 years, 15 in 1 year, 15 another, and in those CEs, continuing education, once they become a registered professional appraiser, they must attend a law and rules, they must attend a USPAP, and they must attend customer service. So not knowing, a lot of that we can do in-house, but there are some things that we can't. So that's why, that's something we can adjust, but even if we adjust it by 10,000, it's not going to make the 4.75%. It's going to be a minimal couple of, 0.0 something of a percent. I would rather give it back to y'all if we don't use it.
Yeah. Well, I think these are just some of the line items that I think we've just been pointing out that I guess when we were talking about giving the budget a look over at what can be trimmed. That's just sort of all been a general concern of mine is, the budget is pretty much intact despite the fact that we've kind of raised some of these issues. But
and let me see, where is that? Yeah, I was looking to see what it was in prior years. I've got it right here. 82. See, in 2016 and 2017, this is one reason why we're concerned. We had 131,000. We spent 129. So we're not really sure. Yeah, we budgeted 134. We spent 115. Have enough in there, and then it would be in the red. We always have other funds we can pull from it, but we don't want to have to do that.
Okay. And then also under the strategic plan for real property and vehicles, I think you all have here replacing 5 vehicles at $175,000 at $35,000 each.
Right.
That's how much the county has spent using buy boards on Chevy Tahoes. I'm glad we have now someone here on.
Well, thank Rosa Goldman was able to, this last one, able to negotiate. Remember, we came to the board and said we got it for 22,000 instead of the 30. Now, we'll be going for 5 more. We don't know if we're going to be able to negotiate that amount for the same vehicles. But I mean, we can lower that a little bit. I don't know if it'll make that much of a difference in your percentage. But again, we put in the 30,000 just because we don't know what vehicles are going to be a year from now, 2 years from now. So we've kind of got that amount in there. We were lucky that she got them instead of for 30,000 each. She was able to get them for about 22, 23,000, the 5 that we got. And that's a strategic plan. Again, whatever's not spent this fiscal year in the strategic plan is back. It is part of the fund that goes back to the entities. So the fact that for this budget, she was able to get them at a very decent price because we bought 8. Remember, we bought 3 new ones and then 5. So they gave us a good deal on them. And we do go through the procurement just like the county does. So there'll be monies going back to the entities from those.
What types of vehicles are they?
They're Ford. They're always Ford Explorers. Ford Explorers? Yeah, Ford Explorers. We got them instead of the sedans. The sedans are low. And when we're out in the field, we have to go over curbs. We have to go out in the county. We have to go in dirt roads. And so we got the higher, and they were actually cheaper than the sedans. They're small. They're not real big. They're a little more efficiency in gas. Ford Escapes. Ford Escapes. Yeah. Explorers, the next one. No, Ford Escapes, the little ones.
And then under the same line item, I guess for the strategic plan, I guess the tile replacement is what's allocated for this year. And I know, I don't think this current board has I guess, reapproved the strategic plan. I know the strategic plan was previously approved by the previous board, but
right.
I think that might be something that the current boards or the new board members have the opportunity to thoroughly review it to see if they, agree or believe that it's necessary. But I know that this year there's tile replacement. I think next year there's like something like solar panels. I think the way it should be prioritized are things that really lead to operational efficiencies.
Right.
First and foremost. I know we did the lighting, which led to operational efficiencies.
Yes.
But
well, the solar panels will. But again, if you notice in the tile upgrade, it's 100,000. So I'm going to have to go to the board for approval. And at that time, we'll have some information and we'll have photos. I mean, all you've got to do is look at the tile on the first floor to see that it's breaking up. And we do want to. It's more of a safety issue on some of the floors. But that'll be something that we'll be going back to the board for, of course, for approval. But the board had asked us to come up with a 5-year strategic plan, putting in things that we think the building needs to have to keep it maintained. That doesn't mean that we have to stick with this. We can change it as we come to the board. We can move it to another year. We can delete it, whatever. But at least the strategic plan is in the budget because the board has asked for us to do that.
And have y'all seen, Sam and Ronnie, have you seen the strategic plan? Would you like to see it?
It's in the budget.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in the budget.
Okay. You got it here then. And if we want to bring that back maybe in the fall to review it and, just give it an update.
Sure. We can definitely do that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the strategic plan is flexible.
Yeah, it's a moving
it can
target,
change.
sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I in for this meeting and the last meeting, I've tried to raise the areas where I think, merit further concern or further review. I'll support the budget, but, I still maintain the concern. When we look at the comparables, Ms. Kilgore came to my office yesterday and we had a thorough discussion regarding the comparables of how do we compare our budget to the size of other budgets entities. And again, there's some that do it looking at the total tax levy divided by the budget of the Central Appraisal District, which I think Rick was giving me a hard time about last time. but then there's also the other method, which is the per parcel, dividing looking at the number of parcels in a particular Central Appraisal District divided by the entire budget. But the issue with that, and so I spent, my staff and I spent a lot of time today looking that up because we just met yesterday afternoon, is that when you look at the number of C2 lots, which are classified as the Colonia lots, which is unique to El Paso County, we have approximately 95,000 lots, as was presented to me yesterday, in East El Paso County that will never be developed because these are the fractionalized lots that they have fractionalized ownership, and the chances of a developer ever coming in and doing development is slim to none. And it's something that our legislative delegation is taking up because it is posing a very unique challenge to El Paso County. It's a little bit in Hidalgo County, but it really doesn't occur anywhere else in the state. But the fact that we have 95,000 lots, where we're calculating into that into that measurement of our budget, I think sort of makes our budget look a little bit leaner than what it really is. Because when I looked at all the other comparable counties. I looked at Hidalgo, I looked at Dallas, looked at Bear. They don't have those C2
colonials.
lots. And I recognize that what you said in their defense as well. They did mention that they still have to go and appraise them. They still have to go and look at them. But I don't believe they require as much time as because the average value of these lots is about $145. I think is what we discussed yesterday, and that's not going to change much because there's not going to be development. It's something that the state legislature really needs to look at. So just moving forward, I mean that's something that I'm going to continue to look at as a metric because I do think that our budget is still higher than other central appraisal districts. Again, it's just we leave the budget up to you to fund the needs. I've raised some concerns where I think that there could be room to cut, but I hope that that's something that as we learn, I've been on the board for 3 years and it's very complex and difficult to go through this. But I hope that moving forward, it's something that we really start to look at is that and have metrics to measure ourselves against other entities. Is this really a lean budget? Are we really operating as efficiently as possible? Because I think that's really important as we justify this budget to the taxing entities that we represent.
Right, and we definitely will. That's something that we'll be looking at through this year. What we found out with some of the comparables is they have a underutilized budget because they have 4 or 5 reserve accounts that at the end of the year they take money and put it in the reserve accounts and they work from the reserve accounts. So their budget is leaner, but they have 5 reserve accounts that are $7 million or $4 million. They have a return of $2.2 million left over a fund balance, but they only return $460,000 to the entities. So they're building their reserves. So that's one of the things we want to have time to go in, say, okay, if we're going to do that, then let's add in or subtract out. If we're going to subtract out lots, then let's subtract out some of the other things so that we truly are looking at apples to apples. So we've taken that into account with what Commissioner Pettis and then, of course, with the workshop. So as we go forward, those will be things that we'll be looking at and come to the board next year with some differences and explanations, what have you, going forward. But we feel like it's pretty lean. On the average, we're right in the middle of appraisal districts, and the weighted average, we're right in the middle of the majority of, I think we had like 10 appraisal districts that we looked at. We're right in the middle. Some are lower, some are higher. We're right in the middle.
You have that comp report?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't need it now.
Sure. Be happy to send it to you.
Yeah. You'd send it to me. Thank you.
I think we have your email, Rick. We'll send it to you.
Great. Thank you.
Board, we'll need a vote.
Is there any other discussion? No? Do we have a motion then?
Motion to approve the budget as is?
In a second. Thank you, Mr. Gondor. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. So we've got a motion and a second to approve the adoption of our budget for 2018-19. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Doesn't sound like anybody. Sounds like we're going forward then. And
Thank you.
hear, Ms. Kilgore, you hear that what I'm hearing are for lack of a better word, the computer system of some sort, the 200,000 is an issue that y'all would like to see more about that coming forward.
And you will, because before we do anything, we're going to bring him in
Gotta
to do
bring
the
it to us.
presentation.
And I think that's where maybe the confusion is coming in.
Yeah,
That we're approving the budget, but that doesn't mean we're going to buy this stuff. It's got to come back to us
right,
to be able to buy it.
exactly.
So,
And there'll be more information, there'll be
Sure.
some statistics, there'll
and
be
some people that'll
costs,
present
and
it.
there'll be some people that can answer that. The vendors, will be here,
Yes.
so we'll definitely do that. And again, there's always room for improvement. Every year we try to improve our budget, the way it looks, what we put into it, how we respond to the entities and to the board members. So we're constantly looking to improve, and your input is very important to us going forward. So thank you, board members.
Thank you all very much. Okay, and that will take us, and thank you, Ms. Kilgore and staff. Public comment.
No, ma'am, there's no one signed up for public comment.
Oh, well, okay, we'll move right through that. To number 4, approval and signing of the minutes from the March 15th, 2018 meeting. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Pettis. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So the minutes are approved, and it'll take us to our financial report for February and March of 2018.
Good evening, Rosa Goldman, Chief Financial Officer. We are presenting the balance sheet, report of revenues, expenditures, and changes in cash balance, investment report, and the note to the financial report for 2 months, February and March 2018. And I just would like to call to your attention, for February, we have an account over budget, which is the bonding general insurance. It is only for $357, and it was due to additional public notaries that we needed to have. And then for the month of March, it's the same thing, additional notaries, additional $213 over budget. So as of March, we are in that particular account, only one account, we are over budget by $570.92. You know, it just means that we budgeted for that line item, you know, a little bit less than we actually need. We didn't know at the time, you know, exactly how many public notaries we were going to have. So, and that's all. We still, on both months, you can see on the notes, we still have the encumbered funds. The litigation reserve continues to be $400,000. It means that nothing has been used from that reserve.
Are there any questions, comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And could we have a motion? We've got this for approval. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you. And we will move to our monthly health benefit and dental insurance plan report.
Right. The report, you also have two. You have one for February and then one for March. And as you can see, as of March 31st, we have a balance in that particular, in the health and dental insurance, we have a balance of $484,591.33. Any questions on that?
No.
Okay, thank you.
And that was just for information. That'll take us to number 7. And board, this is to cancel our June and July meetings for 2018. For y'all that are new, generally speaking, as long as I've been here, we haven't ever had a July meeting. And so this year they're asking that we won't have a June meeting either.
We don't have anything scheduled that's coming up that's due, or a deadline, or anything that the board would have to act on coming up in June or July. If we do, I can always get a hold of you if we need to meet. But at this time, there is nothing coming up. We have received, what we want to do in July after the June meeting, we break this area into 3 additional appraisal review board panel rooms to have hearings. In the last couple of years, the June meeting was fine because we didn't start hearing the tax agents and the large dollar values until about June 15th, June 17th. Well, the deadline moved up. You had, instead of the March 31st to file a protest, you had to file it by May 15th. And if any of you were in our office Monday or Tuesday, you saw how crowded we were and how many people came in at the last minute. Without adding in, we probably have about another 4,000 that we're still processing. But right now, we have about 22,000 protests that came in. About this time last year, we had about 15,000. So we have seen an increase. We have about another, we're thinking 3,000 to 4,000 that's still to be processed, and then the mail coming in. So we need to start hearing more cases sooner, or we're not going to certify on time, and we must certify by July 25th. As soon as thereafter is practical is allowed in the law, but we've never missed that July 25th date. So we want to break up this panel room so that we can start having hearings in here starting next week. Break this up into 3. So the fact that there really isn't anything coming up in June, that there's a deadline or that needs board action, we're asking for June along with July, which we've always not had meetings in July because we're trying to hit that July 25th certification date. Again, if something comes up that's an emergency, Ms. Searles, I can get in touch with you, and we can schedule a meeting if we need to and give everybody plenty of notice. But there isn't anything due.
Everybody comfortable with that?
And when can the board, I mentioned this yesterday during our meeting, when can the board expect a pretty thorough overview of the protest process that took place, I guess, here at the staff level? You know, the number of protests, I guess, roughly the
Probably September, because it depends. Our August meeting, if we move it up a little bit, I know we were looking at usually it's scheduled for the 3rd Thursday. We were looking at moving it up maybe the 2nd Thursday. If we can give you numbers of as the certification date, which is July 25th at the August meeting, we'll still be having hearings in August, probably at least through the mid or 3rd week of August to finish up any. We can give you a final one in September, but definitely in August we can give you an update as to how many hearings were heard, how many protests, how many were residential. I can tell you right now, I can give you a little bit of information right now, but August, I think we can give you, as of the certifying date, we can give you those numbers. Now, as of right now, only about 5.25% of all the notices that went out have filed a protest. Majority of the deadline is over. We still have business personal property that has another 15 days to file a protest, and we'll have some commercial properties that will have till mid-June. But right now, only about 5.24% of all of the notices we sent out have filed a protest, which is very good. We normally average 4 to 5%, so that's not bad. Out of that, 4.17 is residential. 2.21 is commercial. A majority of residential, it's pretty much agent is about 2,000 more than individuals on residential that have filed. Commercial, it's quite a bit more agents than residential that have filed. I mean, than individuals on commercial properties that have filed. And then business personal properties the same way. The largest amount of protests that have been filed have been by agents. So we'll be able to give you, at certifying, we'll be able to give you that kind of certifying totals. In my director's report, I'll give you some preliminary totals that you guys can have, but we'll have the certified totals, and we'll have majority, because 95% of all protests must be heard so that we can certify by July 25th. So you'll have a pretty good idea at the August meeting. We'll be able to give you a good report. I'll work with the liaison officer on that, and we'll have a report for you guys with numbers. We'll have it broken down by individuals versus agents, commercial versus personal property versus residential, how many no-shows, how many withdrawals, that kind of thing. We'll have that for you.
Sound good? So August to September?
August, we'll give you a report of certified, and then September we can give you an update of anything that was still outstanding in August.
Does that sound good, Vince? Okay. So, motion to cancel June and July, guys?
So moved.
Okay. Motion made and seconded to cancel the June and July 2018 Board of Directors meetings. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And that takes us to discussion and possible action regarding the Agricultural Advisory Board.
The Agriculture Advisory Board is required by the State Property Tax Code. They must meet once a year. And what we're doing now, we did this last year before the Board of Directors, and we're bringing it to the Board of Directors again this year, is we sent you a copy of the report that they go over. This is a report that we put together on productivity value for the Agricultural Advisory Board. It also gives you a agricultural intensity standards report. These are things that are required by the tax code. But what we'd like to do is let you know who the committee members are. They've been appointed by boards in the past. They stay on. And so the committee members are John Spence, Ramon Titus, Bill Thomas, Craig Ivy, and Leanne Lovelady. These are actual farmers, people that deal in agricultural in El Paso County. They encompass the entire county. So this is the committee members, advisory board, and we're just presenting it to the board for approval.
Are there any questions?
We appoint, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We appoint this board?
You've appointed these in the past. In fact,
That's right.
was it
Remember Lovelady?
Yeah.
Lovelady?
That's
Y'all
right.
put her on last year because we lost one, and
Yes.
you put Lovelady on last year. They're good members. They're very, very well known in the agricultural
Yeah.
community. And they help us with our property value study when it comes to ag issues. They're very, very good about helping get us information that we need when the comptroller reviews our ag values.
So when we appointed these last year, I had a little bit of an uncomfortable issue that everybody's from the lower valley. Nobody's from the upper valley. Did everything work out fine? Were the upper valley farmers happy?
Yes,
Was
ma'am.
Everything was?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good.
With adding Miss Lovelady on, everybody was very pleased with
Okay,
that.
good. Thank you.
Motion to approve?
Sure.
Second.
Thank you. Motion made and seconded to approve our Agriculture Advisory Board. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And so we did 9 already. Let's drop on to 10. Discussion and possible action regarding the appraisal services RFQ.
This is just for discussion. Wanted to ask the board, we have a appraisal service company that comes in. Right now it's Wardlaw and Associates. The board we have them on contract. The board approved them. Since we're not going to be meeting in June or July, we wanted to get direction from the board. If they want us to go out for RFQ, there's only 5 companies out there. There's the last couple of times we've done that, only 2 have responded. Wardlaw being one and Capital Appraisal Group being the other one. Hugh Landrum and Associates is one. T.Y. Pickett and Pritchard Abbott are the others that do this. The reason we're asking the direction of the board is if you do want us to go out to RFQ, we'll probably do that in July so that when we meet again in August, well, they'll have 30 days. We can do that. I will tell you that we're very pleased with the appraisal firm that we're using right now. Ms. Wardlaw, the numbers, the values that we require from them, they were due this coming Monday. She submitted them last Friday. She's also submitted them throughout the protest season in groups, so we don't have them all at one time. Our staff goes out with her staff on field checks, field reviews, so we're included in that. And to let you know, her and I have worked, and we have a waiver from Western Refinery Endeavor for 2018. They've already waived off on a value. So that being said, I just kind of wanted to know the direction of the board. There's no action to take, but I wanted to know what y'all thought as we get into, because we want to be able to, if we're going to go out for RFQ, then we need to do that in July.
So your recommendation is to stay with Wardlaw, which I have to tell y'all, I've been here the longest. I'm very impressed with them. Very impressed. And I think what they've done with Western Refining now is amazing.
Right. And we don't have to vote on anybody
No.
today, but I just need to
Need a
know,
heads up or down.
heads up, do we
over-
want to go out for RFQ?
Or
Are we
comfortable?
comfortable so that I can come in later with a recommendation?
I just want to ask,
Yes, sir.
I mean, just a point of technicality, legality, can we, I mean, do we have an established contract with them right now for a
Yes, sir.
period of time? Has that contract coming to an end?
It will be coming to the end, to an end at the end of this year.
So does the contract state that we can extend it, or, because if it doesn't state that, then I think we have to procure it.
And you know, I don't
It's
know
still
if
legal.
it
Or
states.
does it just roll over? Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know if it states. It does have a definite time frame on it,
I would think
so.
if it has a definite time, we have to put it out. I mean, I
Okay.
can throw that to the rest of the board with their
So-
knowledge, but.
At the end of the year or,
The fiscal year.
yes, sir?
At the end of the fiscal year. Mhm.
And why is
Oh.
it that, why is
Oh,
it?
Joe, come on up. I didn't realize you were here. Please sit.
Joe's hiding back there.
He just snuck right in behind me. Yeah, Joe, come on up. And we have no problem with going out for an RFQ. That's no problem at all, but I just kind of wanted to bring it before the board so we can discuss it and see what the feelings were of the board members. We have no problem. We can go out for an RFQ. We can do it in plenty of time in July so that the results are in for the August board meeting.
And with regard to the question of the contract,
Yes, sir.
it has a set term limit on it. It cannot roll over.
Okay.
It needs to come out. If it's over at the end of this year, you either need to bring it back for approval by the board or go out for an RFQ, because it does have a set term limit on it.
So it could be done, these are the two ways. Bring it back for approval to keep the same people, get the RFQ, and see who responds and who will come in. Anybody?
I think I would prefer the RFQ.
The RFQ?
Okay.
Okay. I know Mr. Velarde would like the RFQ.
I think it's cleaner.
Okay,
Okay.
that's fine. I have no problem with that.
And why is it that, I guess you said there were 5 out there in the state, but only 2 typically respond? Why is that the case?
We're too far away, and we don't have enough value. They work more on oil and gas refineries. We only have 1 refinery. They're heavy into the power plants, the refineries, the chemical plants, and we're so far away, it's not cost effective for them. They're smaller. But Wardlaw's they're small too, but Wardlaw is based out of San Antonio. They're based out of Houston and I believe Dallas. Not Houston, so yeah. The last couple times we've gone out, we've only received 2 responses. That doesn't mean it won't change this year. So, no problem. I just wanted to be comfortable with what the board wanted us to do. So we'll definitely put that out in July.
So this is set for action. Shall we go ahead and have a motion in a second?
I'll move that we issue an RFQ for these services.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you. Everybody? Aye. Everybody?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any nays? No. Okay. So, Ms. Kilgore, if you could. Thank you. And just for the record, Commissioner Pettis left us. It's 5:30. And that would take us to Ms. Tracy Carter. Good evening, Ms. Tracy Carter, our tax liaison report
Directors,
for the month.
you'll find a light blue folder right in front of you. Yes, that one's it. Inside, those are the comments I have received already from property owners from the appraisal review board. I do want to let you all know that those issues have been addressed already with the property owners.
Now, just a reminder to the board and for the new board members, Ms. Carter is here to discuss the appraisal review board members themselves and the comments that have been received regarding their meetings. She does not comment on personnel for the appraisal district. Okay. So just kind of so you know when she's talking about the comments, it was regarding the appraisal review board hearing that somebody had.
Yes, and also last month in April, the appraisal review board had state comptrollers training. They also had training with their attorney, Roy Armstrong, and with the MAI appraiser, John Traybold. So they all enjoyed the training. They felt that they learned a lot from this training. I have received also many verbal comments from the property owners about Central Appraisal District staff, how helpful they are, how they guide the person to the department that needs help. So I just want to thank Dinah and her staff for,
Thank you, Tracy.
for giving the property owners the service.
Yeah, the chance to vent.
Yes.
Yes.
This was taken care of?
Yes, the issues have been resolved.
Those were taken care of by Ms. Carter.
And thank you for telling us the good as well as the bad.
Thank you.
Because you can't know how to improve if you don't get some bad, right?
And we do have the chairman of the appraisal review board here and the secretary if y'all have any questions for them.
Good evening. Are there any questions? No? Would y'all like to introduce your board members? If you just stand and.
The chairman and the secretary of the appraisal review board are appointed by you guys, by the board of directors. You usually do that in January, and so they're on for a year. Go ahead, if y'all would stand up and introduce
Yes,
yourselves.
please.
I'm Michael Briggs. I'm the chairman of the ALB. This is my 4th year as chairman.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for serving. Thank you very much. So there's no action there, and that takes us to Chief Appraiser's report. Ms. Kilgore?
Okay, so just to let you know, our preliminary values are out. They went out the end of April. We'll be doing an update of values. David Stone will be sending an update to all the taxing entities the end of this month, and then again the end of June, so that they can see where the numbers are going. We don't like to go from the end of April to July 25th, and all of a sudden they're here, and now they're down here. So we give them the different reports, and they seem to like that. We did send out over 418,675 notices have been out in the mail. Just to let y'all know, the preliminary values, I'm going to give you the University Medical Center. They have the least exemptions that went out. The taxable value, the actual amount that the tax rate is applied to, is $44,698,344,517. So now the UMC is the entire county and the least amount of exemptions. So y'all will follow underneath that. Since you guys are here, I'll be happy to give you yours. The City of El Paso taxable amount right now preliminarily is $36,260,646,888. And all of your entities have this information. Canutillo ISD, $2,212,324,443. City El Paso, hold on. My El Paso ISD, Mr. Taylor, is $15,296,149,097. That's the market, the taxable value, I'm sorry, of what is sent out. Socorro ISD, I'm just going to give you that one, Mr. Gondara. I know you represent quite a few, but I'll give you Socorro ISD, is $9,999,133,874. Mr. Velarde, you got the El Paso? Okay, so that just kind of gives you an idea of what went out preliminarily. Wanted to, on record, El Paso Community College, Josette Shaughnessy and her staff over there worked with us. We have a fleet of vehicles that we need to move during the summer because we need the parking space. My staff that parks out front has to park in the back where we store the vehicles because we have to leave the front open for our appraisal review board members and for the public. We were having them, the sheriff deputy quite a while back had allowed us to use one of their facilities way out East Montana, and they decided this year not to allow us to use that. I understand, they have their own issues going on with their own vehicles. So we reached out to community college, and they have a section over here off of Viscount, way back in the back, where they have their maintenance facility, that they've allowed us to park our vehicles. We cover them, we take out the batteries. They're in a fenced-in area that has a gate with a lock, and I want to thank them publicly for allowing us to do that.
What are we going to do with these vehicles?
Huh?
What are we going to do with them?
Oh, well, the field appraisers use them. Yeah, it's the vehicles. We tried a pilot program, remember a couple of years ago, and they used their own vehicles because we have a fleet. We thought, would it be cheaper? And other appraisal districts doing a car allowance of about anywhere from $600 to $800 a month for the appraisers that use the cars. They add that to their salaries. We tried that for about 6 months. We came back with the numbers, and the board decided to stick with a fleet of vehicles. That's when we went in to the strategic plan to replace them because they're about 10 years old now. So we're replacing them 5 at a time, highest mileage first. So, but we did need a place. So I wanted to thank them. And yes, to let you know, those of you that are in El Paso ISD or the city of El Paso or the county, we did settle with the refinery. All of their properties, personal property, their land, and the refinery itself, the total is $497 million, $675.70. The refinery itself is about $376 plus. When you add everything else in, the personal property, we're at $497. So we're very pleased. Mr. Chip Toomey worked with us, myself and Peggy Wardlaw, to come up with a number that we could all agree on. And settling it now and having a waiver, there'll be no lawsuit. So that'll be a big benefit for the school district and the city. So, other than that, if there was any other questions.
Saying is that our attorney's not happy then, right?
Yeah. Their attorney is
Their attorney is not happy about this.
My attorney's very happy. Their attorney not so
attorneys are
much.
happy.
Oh, and I do need to, on that note, I do need to let you know, you've seen in the paper that Endeavor/Western Refinery has sold to Marathon. Marathon Oil is represented by a law firm who represented Western Refinery in the past. And this law firm, as we know, Marathon files lawsuits on all their properties in the Gulf Coast. So let's enjoy this year while we can.
The
All right.
stock jumped up real high today.
Did it?
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to have stock in them, so
Talk
I
about
don't
that
even
anymore
look.
then.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
On the vehicles also, what's the mileage that you are replacing?
Over 60,000.
Once it gets over 60,000, and how are you disposing of those vehicles?
Well, what we're doing is we're trading them in with the company that we're buying the vehicles from. So they're taking them as a trade-in. So that's another thing that helped us get a lower value on the vehicles.
And so there's so that's this on the strategic plan, the additional or the $20,000 additional on top of the equity that we already have in those vehicles to purchase the new ones.
Yes.
Well, the amount there is the actual price of the vehicle.
Right. So whatever that price is already discounted down because with the trade-in. The trade-in, 60,000 miles. It's not so much that; it's the wear and tear of where we go out in the county and the field work, the dirt roads and everything that we go on. We'll be getting rid of they're about 10 years old now, so the age also of them. I don't want them breaking down. What we start also look at besides the mileage is maintenance. If we're having to do a lot of maintenance on them, which we were starting to have to do a lot of maintenance, so we knew it was time to start working those. Those ones with the higher maintenance and the higher mileages are the ones that are going first. And that's why we're doing it 5 at a time, so that the others, by the time we get another couple of years down, they'll have the higher mileage.
How big is the fleet?
It's 25.
So we're only putting about 6,000 miles a year on these. I mean, if they're 10 years old, with 60,000.
Well, some are higher than others. So what we do is we rotate them. If we see one of the vehicles is adding mileage on rather quickly, then after it hits a certain amount, they'll rotate. My accounting department will rotate out the higher mileage for a lower mileage to that appraisal department that is like maybe going all the way out in the county. Let's give them the lower mileage one to add the miles onto that. Yeah, we try to even it out.
Do we get a? To me, 60,000 miles seems very low for a fleet vehicle.
And the maintenance on them starts to cost us money. So
That's my question between
Yeah.
age and mileage. But I mean, I know fleet vehicles. The lease car will get 250,000 miles before they change it, right? And those are really run hard, right?
right. Well, and it's a fact of the use on them. When you have a lease car, you drive it a little bit better. When we have employees that it's not their car, they see, oh, let me go over this berm, let me get on this levee, so. But this was approved by the board in the strategic plan for us to replace them.
I understand, but
Yeah.
and going back to looking at that strategic plan, I mean, I still got to say it's very low mileage to consider changing them out. I get the age part.
The age
but
part, and then the
is
insurance
there
goes up
any
also.
kind of studies that exist that show you where the right time to move a vehicle out is?
Well,
Because, again,
There isn't any studies in appraisal districts because we're the only one that has a fleet.
I mean, just in general
Yeah.
for fleet vehicles.
But I don't know if they have the same type of driving that we have.
I mean, it just seems very low
Yeah.
mileage, and when we talk about budget savings, maybe.
That's something we can look at going
area
forward.
that
Sure.
Instead of replacing cars so quickly, we can.
We can look at that on our strategic plan going forward. Yes, sir.
Yeah, to me, it just seems very low mileage.
Well, that's the end of my report.
Thank
So
you.
that's, we do need to go, we have one thing in executive session.
And so it is now 5:45, and the board will adjourn into executive session under Texas Government Code 551.071 and 551.074 to discuss legal and personnel matters. Thank you.
Okay.
open session on item 14, and the board will take no action.
Motion to adjourn?
Yes, sir. Meeting is adjourned, and it is still 6:24. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, board members.
Thank you.